Ripening melons. Maybe it's time we stiffened up our lips, swallowed our collective pride, and admit that we were wrong about barbs. Nathan Hill suggests a species that could be the perfect ambassador to improve relations. Words by Nathan Hill. Walking under ladders, black cats crossing your path, and barbs and community tanks. All things that many people go out of their way to avoid, but no one stops to question why. For sure, once barbs had a bad reputation. Waspish and nippy, hungry for long fins, but it turns out that this was simply due to the way that they were being kept. In small numbers, without the hierarchy of a shoal to occupy them, frustrations and confusion would occasionally manifest as a bitten tank mate. But this revelation came out too late, and hysteria had taken hold. Barbs bad, the superstition went, and we've collectively clung to that ever since. The tragedy of this is that for decades, all of our community tanks have been slightly emptier for it. Many barbs are an ideal fit in the mixed aquarium, plugging the size gap that sits between small tetra to hulking centipede cichlids or gouramis. To ignore them is our loss. Many merits. We ignore one particular Indian gem, the melon barb Halodaria fasciata, at such considerable loss. Let's start with the merits. Right off the bat, there's this fish's acceptance of a wide range of conditions. There's nothing extreme about the melon barbs, and they'll be just as happy in a tank at 6.5 pH as they are at 7.5 pH. I've known them to be kept successfully at 7.8 pH, and aquarium literature cites that they'll happily go down to 6 pH. Hardness is tolerated from a range as low as 2H up to over 16H. The sweet spot for temperature sits between 22 and 26 degrees Celsius. I'd speculate that a good 75% of community tanks in the UK are sat firmly within these parameters. Next up, there's temperament. If the melon barbs have a single attitude problem, it's that they get too confident. Not at first, I should add. On first introduction, you'll be cursing me for advising such washed out and terrified fish. But give them a couple of weeks, let them learn when the food comes, where the hiding places are, and let them familiarise themselves with the total lack of natural predators. Then you'll have a fish that beats everything to the flakes at feeding time, and the pellets, and the Daphnia. Keep them with other confident feeders like rainbow fish. You can still have slower fish in the tank, but you need to distract the barbs by feeding them at one end while you surreptitiously slip in some morsels at the other. Did you know? Sometimes melon barbs might be traded under the incorrect name of Barbus melampix or Girardia fasciata. Size is a winner. Retailers and fish databases hint at the fish reaching some 6 to 7 centimetres fully grown, but if rumours are to be believed, then fish up to 15 centimetres are possible. I've never seen one that big myself, but I've definitely seen them in private aquaria scraping closer to 10 centimetres. Even at 6 centimetres, there is a certain mass to melons, which gives it greater presence than other fish of the same length. And then there's the colour. Oh my days, the colour. There are a few populations of melon barbs in the hobby, and they subtly differ in markings and intensity. If your fish have originated from high altitudes, expect them to be distinctly peach. If they're from lower altitudes, then you could be blessed with something with a purple, violet and red hue. The number of black bars they display also varies pending location. Fish from the south of Kerala have 3 bars on their flanks. Those from the north possess 4, while those from Goa have an impressive 5. In a community tank, that's not really too important to know, but if you're ever aiming to breed them, make a strong note of that. Hybrids between the lines are pretty worthless, and they just dilute down the gene pools. And there is a chance they'll breed in a tank. Guessing the most. You'll need to work for those impressive colours, and no barb is going to flourish in some sparsely laid out tank with that coloured gravel and kind of decoration that could blind a person at 50 yards. Provide the best for your fish and they'll reciprocate, giving you the best in return. The best might be loosely translated as some sort of approximation of their home habitat. Start with a decent-sized tank, 120 centimetres long. Next, you're aiming to decorate it like some Indian river or canal with dark substrates, like light sand, like silver, will rinse their colours out, and ideally a combo of sand, black quartz or JBL's Zanzibar Dark will fit the bill. Mix in with river cobbles. I get mine by the sack from a garden centre. Rinse them and keep them for when I need some. Add some chunks of dark bogwood, but soak the worst of the acids out of it first. You want to try to avoid an extreme of low pH. A few fallen branches, try to get one with dried leaves still attached for optimal effect, and twigs, and then it just remains to add some plants. Plants aren't essential, but melons will sure appreciate them. For a biotope feel, go for something like Blixer, but if you aren't so fussed, then anything goes. Make it dense at the back and sides, and you'll corral the fish into an open viewing area at the front of the tank. Or just add them to an existing 120 centimetre community and up to general plant numbers. It wouldn't hurt to mix in some dark substrate if yours is especially light. The real rewards are destined for the savvy aquarist, however. Top tip. Keep your melon barbs alone in a tank with a spawning mop or Java moss to harvest eggs. Eschew the typical community fish and instead pair melon barbs with a selection of loaches for a high-energy, abrasive community. Add some more mid-water cryptinids like filament barbs, Dalkinsa filamentosus, Danio, Devdaria malabaricus, and two-spot barbs, Perthia ticto, and you'll have an enviable display of colours and movement, and not a shy fish in sight. Add a few flow pumps or a gyre at one end of the setup, and you'll never want a standard community tank again. Just wait until the male melon starts to vie for the attention of the females too. You've never seen barb colours like barb sparring for dominance and breeding privileges in a tight hierarchy. So for all of the good points, what's the bad? The only one I can think of is the price, but frankly you're getting a steal for what you're getting. The typical melon barb starts at around £4 in the UK, and to keep them properly you want a shoal of about 8 to 10. But let's be honest about this. That's £40 for some of the brightest and most active barbs you'll ever encounter. £40 will barely get you one of the interesting sucker-mouthed catfish, and all that's going to do is it's going to bury itself face first in a cave and occasionally show you a hint of its behind. I know where the smart money is.